In this video, we're going to review the domain and range of a logarithm. I recall the range of a function is all the outputs you get. And looking at the graph, you can see it's the y values. And loggers are nice in terms of range. The range will always be all real numbers. The domain of a function is the inputs you can put into your function, and that's going to be the x values on your graph. The domain of the log is the more complicated one. It's going to be dependent on that vertical asymptote. So let's say we want to find the domain of log base 2 of x. We know the graph. The graph looks like this. And the domain is all the x values. So you can see there's nothing drawn over here to the left. All my x values are just on the right of the graph, and my domain is x is bigger than 0. Everything to the right of this asymptote, I can get or plug into my log. So let's say I had log base 5 of 2x plus 8. What we just saw on the previous slide is that whatever goes into a log has to be positive. So you could graph this and figure it out, but we actually don't know how to graph this yet because there's this 2 in front of this x. So the alternate way is say, well, whatever goes into the log has to be positive. We know that whatever goes in the log cannot be negative. So that's just saying, well, whatever goes in has to be positive. Everything in this parentheses has to be bigger than or equal to 0. And I can just solve this the way we always solve an inequality. I can subtract 8 from both sides. I can divide both sides by 2. So in order to make sure that I don't put a negative into this log, x has to be bigger than negative 4. So for these ones, I wouldn't actually graph them. I would just set whatever is on the inside bigger than 0. So what about this one? Log base 8 of 16 minus 4x. We actually don't know how to graph this one by hand, so you kind of have to do it this way. But we know whenever you have a log, the inside has to be bigger than 0. Then you just solve this inequality. So I'm going to subtract 16 from both sides, divide both sides by negative 4, and I get x is less than 4. And one important thing to remember, you'll notice that this greater than changed to a less than. I flip the direction of the inequality whenever you multiply or divide by negative. So I subtracted 16, that's negative, but that doesn't matter because it's subtraction. But here I divided by negative 4, and that flips the inequality. So for logs, range really nice, always all real numbers. Domain, you set that inside bigger than 0.